just a minute ago where like I don't believe people like stuff. Like the things we're eating are like I'm dying so bad. This is hard for me to say. I can't get it anymore. This is scary. Look, I don't think people like stuff or like the plant. Like everything we do, it's more like the initial jolt of like even now with like how stuff is over processed, and also when you're in the wonder state. I've also noticed when you're healthy, you're less affected by like people drink alcohol, right? And that's a form of waste. And like I don't think people like stuff, and I've always thought this. Like I've smelt decay, but I'm also in a body with a hernia that's like really receptive to my surroundings. So when I sit in a car and like I'm like on Earth, like the cars are expelling gases that are harmful, and like that's what is going into the atmosphere, and that's what we're all surrounded by. And you can smell like related to positive ions and negative ions, like you can tell like regarding the particles, like why it's wasteful, and like you can feel it harming you, and like when people are, you can see it in the color of things, and that's not always the case because there's some things that like beauty is reflected too, but then there's animals. This isn't always true. I'm just riffing like I'm dying and this can be tested. But like what I just said about the plants, like I don't believe people like stuff, and the further you get from the whole state of the plant, and you can make a million terms for things that are processed, where like a recipe, like when people say different foods, like when you're in different places you can feel the different cultures, but a lot of cultures, this isn't the case for everything. You could have manual people that like make decisions. Like say if I started something right now, I could start a culture which should be worldwide. Or you go to different places, you can taste the subtle differences that they either accumulated based on the evolution of that area, or it's like everybody lived near each other and then those ideals were passed, and like everybody's different. People can have different thoughts and that, but the masses and that. But the plants themselves, like the further you get, like when you take it from, we could do indoor farming, or you could even have a grocery store where you pick it off the vine, where it's like you could conceal the vine because people don't want to be in a jungle, you know? Which I don't like. That's not real. But like once you take it off, it starts to die. I don't know if this is the case for all things, because plants are alive and they have their own functions. Like that's why I'm saying, like regarding the sun hitting it and that, or like some leaves down here are dead. Like it's funny, like I'm walking in a forest right now with a bunch of fresh plants that I could eat depending on the one. Like this is a funny thing too, when I say you're not supposed to eat this, when I wrote this thing where I said you're not supposed to, like that's not a real thing either. It's just a mechanism causing. So like there's some plants that kill us, and there's a reason. And like even the seeds in plants, there's seeds in plants, and like they say, like there's a funny thing that we're like, I'm just jumping along because I'm dying thought to thought, and like depending on my face, like like certain spicy plants, like they don't want you to eat the seed. I don't know if this is true, I could just be saying nothing, but they don't want you to eat the seed. The plant is trying to defend the seed, so that's why it's spicy, and it's hurting you. And it doesn't hurt, but then like when I'd eat spicy stuff, it felt healthy as a kid, like it's barreling the mucus up. It's almost like, this is a really weird thing. Like I've always noticed, like when I'm eating certain things, like I don't believe in certain things, but when I'm consuming certain things, like you can feel the effect on the body. Or it's like I don't believe in health. Like it's more than like it affects you the moment you consume it. Like it's bone structure, like, and that's irreversible. And like life's a game where like it's just a mess of everybody's in different bodies and perceptions, and like misguided. It's hard to put into words. Where like it's this mess where like when people say like people don't listen, I don't believe in that. Like there's too much happening, chaos of the minds and that. Like I'm like going to the store and it's all wilted. And it's funny, like we live in a world where like the things that are official are still wrong because we're all just people on a rock. that like we're still just people discovering things, and until something is catalyst forward to start a revolution on this, we can it's gonna stay this way. I don't know. But the plants around here, like, and like I'm not saying there's any like the beauty of stuff and like things that are like health wise, like with the plants. I'm dying, sorry. Like I'm like going to the store and it's all wilted, but then I'm in the trees here and it's all fresh, and it's just because they're connected to the root. And like we live in a cold climate where it's like 2 months out of the year, and we could forest off enough land where we're like we have unlimited amounts. Like when you eat the seed and poop it out, like it makes another tree if you're near an area where it can form. Or it's like literally like nature's set up in a way. This isn't the case for everything. And then you look at man-made things, that's where it can't happen. Like if you ate a fruit and then it landed on concrete, like it could easily like the exact happenings, or the seed would have to like get pushed to a certain place for it to form again and make another plant. Or it's like there's so many things happening, and like one thing can cause it not happening. And then also like the chain of life, where like certain things happening that create, like even like it's been shown that meat and dairy cause cancer. And then I met this guy that talked about like we killed him to keep the population down, but like I have a answer to that, but I can't tell him because I'm sick. Like it's such a deep thing that I know in my mind, and he asked me why, and I couldn't tell him. If I could tell him, convey it, I think he'd listen. Or it's like the thing, well, like, and the fresh food-based thing, there's so many things regarding like frozen stuff too that I'm thinking about, that are like, I'm curious, like you can freeze a woman's eggs in her body and it maintains I wrote this thing where it was like, can you freeze a human? Or it's like, that's it, obviously we die when we're frozen, but I'm curious like what we could do with that. Where it's like the eggs can get frozen, we can freeze plants. But I do think, I don't know, but I've noticed when you freeze plants, they still like lose a bit of their ripeness or reproductive value, because that's what the plants are reproductive. Like nature's reproducing too, asexually. It's like I'm saying this like I don't know anything about this. Like I'd like to actually learn about it. And like a lot of people know this plant-based stuff, but a lot of people still don't eat super right. It's not a world-known thing, it seems like we could have indoor farms everywhere. And like I'll go to restaurants and that, and I can just see the system they have, where it's one thing causing when they bring it out to me, and like the broccoli's a little wilted. There's just one thing we can do to fix that. We just have to standardize that for the world. And like I don't believe in choices. I don't believe in different restaurants. Like every time you go to McDonald's, like that's shortening your life. And we can make stuff that's healthy, and we can still have where not everything has to be the same, but it has to follow the same standard of health. But we can still have like unlimited amounts of recipes and that. Like I bet you could, even the burger, like when you cook things, you're killing it. You are killing it. Like I could demonstrate that here on video, like, and like that's the thing, like the light, like once there's too much heat, that's when it starts to die. So there's like a balance with how the plant, like that's why I'm wondering like exactly how much light. So, but that's also not real. There is not how much, because things are evolving too, but it does show after a certain point you're killing it. Like we have to do, there's tests we could do on that. Everything can be tested. That's where it's like funny to talk about. Like we can actually go and test it, but you need means for that and equipment, and that's the capitalist system we're in too. And if you don't show like the abilities to do that, you don't have the means to do it if you can't make money yourself to do it yourself. And it's like a lifetime. That's what the game is. Really hard to explain that too. It's like I see people's bodies change, and like things I've went through. There's so many factors, and like a lot of the things in life that are causing people problems are related to survival based things. Like nowadays, like we are animals, and the more you move, the more acute stress your body's maintaining. This is really hard to verbalize because I'm dying more now and I can't get it, like say it how I used to really think it. And I've always thought this stuff, but I never said it because I'm dying. Not dying. Because of the hernia, and like I couldn't get in a mode to say it because I never could relax where I live. Or it's like a game with this. Same thing now, but I'm just rambling about nothing. Like, it's just hard to explain. But like a lot of like the pillars of life were like they've shown that if you're in moderate discomfort, too cold or too hot, then you could say too like certain animals eat meat, and like that's how they evolved, right? And plants evolve. I don't know if plants evolve, but they seem to. That animals we evolve, where it's like certain. Like there's a million factors, right? It's like it's been shown all like. And also like eating meat whole, like it's an animal. We can do things that don't cause pain too, where we can lab grow meat, replicate the animal itself without causing harm to other things, even things that evolved to kill other things. We can give them out. Like we'd have to go to every edge of the earth and stop that. Cameras everywhere. I've thought of a thing where we can tag all the sharks and tag all the deer. GPS is on them, tag their area where they give birth. So like everything's always tagged so they can't run out in the street and kill us. But then the thing with cars too, like we could have built cars, but like that didn't happen. We could have built tracks for cars, but everybody's in a car like based on the human chaos of the mind, and so many things happening. Like people die every day in cars, and so it's like all these things can be fixed. And like I can play devil's advocate too, and like I am a supporter of veganism, but you can argue too, like with evolution. I wrote this down relating to the milk, or like someone drank milk and developed a mutation where he could tolerate it. So like I don't know if we did millions of years of a human being drinking milk from a cow, where the evolution would go with that. But now like the control group studies do say that milk and dairy do cause our problem, and it makes sense. Like all the things that happen, they make sense. And like and also too, when people say like caloric deficit and that's based on the standards of testing of our bodies now, what we think we need, based on like our being of what we are now, and then that'll keep changing because our bodies will keep adapting if we have a system of health where like, this is hard, people are going to interpret what I just said with that differently. But the plant thing is like really important. This can all be fixed for like you want it at its high. Like you can see the vitalness in the plant, like when it's at its freshest state. So, and also too, like depending on the seasons, and that's just the heat. Like there are no seasons in an indoor farm. You can replicate how the light was hitting it, or how the plant is getting the light, water, nitrogen. I don't know if it's nitrogen. But this is just like a feeling I've always had with this, where like we can, and it's not like a hippie thing either. We can like do stuff where like people can have restaurants that you can still have. We just need to follow this health standard, because like I'm still going to restaurants and like I don't believe people like stuff. I think when you're in this wonder state, like you're like wow, and you're taking in life more as an experience. Like even with music, like it's pitch, and like you can bang a tree and pitch it at different levels, and if you made an instrument in real life, like even if I knock on this tree, like that's a certain pitch, and if I took that, recorded that, you can pitch it, but that's not physically. You'd have to replicate this tree in different sizes, which cause that pitch to be different, and that's what instruments are. But an instrument isn't even like a real thing. It's just matter producing the same sound. You could have an instrument that produces different sounds on each pitch. Or like those probably do exist. But like nowadays we have this like rule, we think, where like people make pianos, or you have to have the exact same sound at a different frequency. It's like when I bang that tree, but you'd have to replicate that exact tree in a different size, exactly how it is with what's causing that sound. Like rocks banging together, and that's organic. That's real organic evolution. Like you'd have to do a lot with that. Or like man-made things. Like you could get a bunch of mason jars and make them different sizes. And then like you'd have an instrument like with whatever's banging on it. You'd have to do it exactly particular. But then you could do the same thing by just recording that sound and then pitching it down in a computer anyway. It's like, and like even like massive bells. It's hard to explain, but like the food related thing, like we can do indoor farms everywhere where like fresh food is always near regardless of where you live on the earth where there's light coming on it, because we can emulate the light. When people say something tastes better, that's not a real thing. It's the reproductiveness of the plant that's like higher energy, giving you that vitality. Like burgers and different things, and then people acquire toxins and that. Like I've always known this. Like you can feel the man-madeness of stuff too. Where like the word, like, even bread. Like that's like they're taking the flour in an unregulated amount. Like even sugar. Like I'm curious with cocaine and caffeine, if it wasn't taken like similar to how sugar is taken, where it's like a super high amount, unregulated high amount, like that we could never really get naturally in nature. And naturally is a funny word too, where like people don't understand that, where it's like clearly the abundance, where it's like a ridiculous amount you could never stumble across in the forest. Like it causes problems like with diabetes through like, or like the fat, like you'd never be able to unless you had a system like we do now, where we have a system maintaining that level of like factory farming, slaughterhouses, high level plants taking sugar, and like we're doing all these excessive things that just kill us quicker. Or it's like the struggle to be alive is actually good for the body, and we can still enjoy life where we're not in the woods like running from animals. Like we can impose struggle, or like you can make, like you could just exercise and you can still live your life. Or like the things that are good for us is taking more air in. That's another thing, like how we live too. We're in homes that are like the ventilation is bad. Like, and the animals that seem to look more repulsive, and I have nothing, like I think everything's beautiful in perspective. But like the ones that look more, they seem to like have eaten decaying things or like been near. Like even if you look at like Chernobyl, like the animals that mutated, and like with what I'm going through and how I look, like it's been shown that like that mutation causes like changes the way you look in like this abnormal way, or you can't coexist. And like a lot of people are unaware of that. So like that's where the bullying, like the animal primitive, like human hierarchy game comes into play. Like this is like right now I'm talking and I'm aware that I sound weirder. Like I can tell when people like react differently to what I'm saying. And like even my arm, like the body changes. And like we can fix all this stuff. Where it's like we can fix all this stuff. I don't believe people like stuff. Yes, I get like some people like have an acquiring like for a certain, like some people like starch and like that's just their body's acquirance. Like I don't think people like things like music. Like it's more like I can like change my perspective on a song like every 2 seconds. Where like I'll hear, and then like the things that are hard for me, or like David, my friend David talks about me not liking Wu-Tang, and like. There's a thing where like the music is harsh, but it's based on my current body, where like I'm liking the pretty vanilla pop type stuff. Or it's like when I'm in a state where I can, like people that are like smarter, I can tell like take in the world in a wondrous way, regardless of that initial shock to what's in front of them, if it's like repulsive, because we can love everything, even the things that are like cats and like different predatory creatures, like they evolved to be like that. Like it's good to love everything. This is just the thing I'm trying to get across. Like it's hard to, like with the plants, like that's really like I argue 100%. Even when people say environmental, like that's not real. It is. But like when people say they've been around it, that's irreversible. Like if you're in an area where there's like oil-based gases and that, like you're breathing that in, like you're not getting that time back, like that's decaying your matter inside. And we can make artificial parts, but I actually think the mutations and things that are caused, like they spread to the body to the point, because like where it already decayed your organic body, and like there are ways to stop this, but like when people get cancer, it seems to just keep spreading, and like that's just something that's targeted that area and caused irreversible loss. This is really hard for me to explain, but it's a feeling I've always had. Like now, like my body looks a certain way, and when I do things that jolt me, like get my like nervous, I'm taking in more air and like changes my shape of my body, because I'm in this state of like, it's like a disguise for like how your body looks survival wise. It's friggin' weird. And then when you see like certain people, like I'm in a state where like people think I look bad, like I don't believe people look different, but that's all predictable too, with like how people genetically look. I'm just pacing back and forth here. This is how my heart here, like we can help everybody. It's like, and like a lot of things don't matter, but like how people look and that, like I personally don't care, and I'm a good person, but like that does reflect, your health reflects in how you look in some ways. Even people that are born looking a certain way, there's like a genetic pass along. Or like even cancer, when people say they're born with cancer, I don't believe in that. I think they're like, it's all predictable, and we'd have to do, it's not predictable now, but we can show what their family did prior to lead to each thing. Even mouth breathing, like it's shown to change your face. And if I had a kid now, and then I started mouth breathing, and then I had a kid, I'm curious if that, my friend just talked about this a year ago, a couple months ago, and like I'm curious if the second kid would come out, and those genes work too, where like sometimes they get the mother's traits depending on each thing. So like if they got that mouth breathing thing, and my face was longer when I had the second kid, I'm curious if like when I started doing that, if the second kid would get that. And like I think that's how it works. Same thing with plants. They don't mount. But like you look at everything, and there's replicas of what is. Like that's what this all is. And it's like every person's an individual with a brain, and you can just get that information. But now we're stimulated to the point too where we don't like take in wonders too, and we're on this dopamine chase, where you're not taking in the world as much. Oh, this is just my thoughts. Like the food thing is really important to me, because like that's most human problems are caused by health problems, are caused by these things like environmental. Like that's all just the cause of different. And like that's what I mean by the fake jobs. And when we're talking about oil, like we're doing things now like where oil is lessening our time on this planet, and I think we could make another planet, which we could in due time. I think we could, like, I think we really could if we could put something like that. So you can do the math on how many people would make a replica ball of rock we could live on, because we could generate rock, I think. Like, it's funny, like, once the things we know and have been known for hundreds of years, like with Tesla, Nikola Tesla, like he had, like free energy, and like that's like under this guise of like capitalism, and the people that took it and own it now, and that could have existed and still can, but we're doing these fake jobs like related to oil, where like oil's lessening our time on this earth and like killing things, but we're doing it to speed ourselves up to get to our fake jobs, because cars have come along now when we could have built different things, and like there's other ways to get around quicker. It's like, and then 100 years ago I seen Neil talk about like we could have had 100 years of clever engineering on the electric car, but then gas cars took off, and it's just like a game. And I don't believe in opinions, and I don't believe in arguments when people are arguing with each other. Like you're basing it on temporary human opinion, like there's a fact there, and the ego itself isn't real. That hysterical argument, you're just debating until you get to a fact, and then the people that are in chaotic mindsets and aren't aware of what they're doing, that's when like Nikola and Thomas Edison, he gets a hold of AC, or not AC, like heat, direct current, and what he did, where like he ousted Tesla and that, and then like you have his, and like people like that can still do good things. Like Thomas Edison invented a lot of the modern world still, but we did a lot of things that were wrong too. We're like, it's a game with this that we can fix all this. A lot of people don't know the food stuff. I'm saying I've always had this feeling for it. You can just feel it. Like the plant thing's really important. Even slushies, like I'm curious, like there's nowhere on earth, and you can like do things adapt no matter what, but there's nowhere on earth where you can get unfiltered fresh water maybe. But that's not the case. Even plants we eat, like they have things on them that can kill us, right? So we have to make man-made things that don't lose the vitality of what we're doing. But when you drink just stale water, it flushes out what you just nutritionally got from the plants. And I'm curious if you eat a bunch of plants too, if that barrels stuff out too. Or like we can help everything, like even like, yeah. I'll keep talking on this when I think more on it. But